Captain Peter Xavier's heart thumped with anticipation. His boots hit the pavement, each step closer to home. 8 long months away, a lifetime in his heart, an early discharge, a chance to return to his family.
A grin stretched across Peter's face. The surprise would be epic.
The key clicked in the lock, a familiar sound that brought a surge of joy.
Linda? Melissa? Guys, I'm home!
Peter boomed, his voice echoing in the silent house. A wave of confusion washed over him. There was no joyous shriek, no excited scramble of feet. The air hung heavy with an eerie stillness. His smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of unease. He wandered from room to room, his heart sinking with each empty space. Toys lay scattered in the living room, a half-finished game of checkers abandoned on the coffee table. The kitchen was deserted, a single dirty plate left on the counter. Where could they be? It was Saturday morning. Linda and the kids were homebodies, always around on weekends. A knot of worry tightened in Peter's chest.
Melissa? He called out again, his voice laced with desperation.
Silence met his ears, amplifying the growing fear in his gut. He was about to check upstairs when a faint sound stopped him in his tracks. It was a muffled sob coming from the kitchen. Peter's blood ran cold.
He rushed towards the sound, his hand instinctively reaching for the doorknob. It was locked. Panic surged through him. Melissa, it's Daddy! Open the door! He yelled, his voice rough with urgency.
A moment of strained silence followed. Then a small, trembling voice whispered from the other side, "I'm here in the kitchen."
Peter's blood ran cold. Why was the kitchen door locked? A million terrifying thoughts raced through his mind. Was Melissa hurt? Was someone else in the house with her? He rattled the doorknob, his heart pounding against his ribs.
Melissa, honey, open the door! He pleaded, his voice tight with fear.
A moment stretched into an eternity as he waited for a response. Finally, a small click echoed through the silent house. The door creaked open slowly, revealing Melissa standing there, her eyes red and swollen. Relief flooded through Peter, so powerful it nearly brought him to his knees. But the relief was short-lived, quickly replaced by a chilling wave of concern. Something was terribly wrong. Melissa stood frozen, her tiny frame trembling slightly. She looked so small, so vulnerable, standing there in her pajamas. Her eyes, usually sparkling with mischief, were dull with unshed tears.
"Daddy,"
she whispered, her voice barely audible. She launched herself into his arms, burying her face in his chest.
Melissa?
Peter held her close, his own eyes welling up. He pulled back slightly, looking around the kitchen, searching for an explanation. His gaze fell upon a sight that made his stomach clench. A thin mattress lay on the floor, a single blanket tossed carelessly on top. A wave of nausea washed over him.
Melissa, why are you sleeping here?
Melissa's lower lip trembled, and a fresh wave of tears streamed down her cheeks.
Linda said Jay and Kyle are too big to share a room now. She said, "I had to sleep here."
She pointed a trembling finger at the mattress. Peter's blood ran cold. His own daughter relegated to the kitchen floor? He felt a surge of anger towards Linda, towards her sons, towards anyone who could allow this to happen.
Where are they now?
he asked, his voice dangerously low. He knew he needed to remain calm for Melissa's sake, but rage simmered beneath the surface. Linda took Jay and Kyle to Florida for the weekend.
It's Kyle's birthday. They left yesterday morning. They'll be back tomorrow night.
She mumbled, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. Peter felt a surge of protectiveness wash over him. He wouldn't allow this to continue. He would protect his daughter, no matter the cost. He knelt down in front of Melissa, taking her small hands in his calloused ones.
Listen to me, sweetheart. Everything is going to be all right, I promise.
Melissa's words hung heavy in the air, each syllable a tiny dagger piercing Peter's heart. His little girl, his precious daughter, banished to the kitchen floor like an unwanted pet. The injustice of it all ignited a firestorm of rage within him. He had vowed to protect her, to be the father she never had, and he had failed.
Why didn't you tell me, sweetheart? Why didn't you call me?
He fought to control his anger, reminding himself that Melissa needed him to be strong. He gently brushed a stray tear from her cheek, his touch lingering on her soft skin. Melissa flinched at his question, her eyes darting nervously around the room.
Linda, she took my phone. She said I wasn't allowed to call anyone. She said no one would believe me anyway.
A wave of nausea washed over Peter. Not only had Linda forced his daughter to sleep in the kitchen, but she had also isolated her, cut her off from the outside world. The thought of Melissa, alone and afraid, locked in this house with no one to turn to, was almost unbearable. Section 3. A Seed of Suspicion.
She locked you in?
Peter asked, his voice dangerously low. He had to clench his jaw to prevent the torrent of angry words threatening to spill out.
She said I couldn't be trusted, that I would steal things.
Peter's heart ached for his daughter. To think that anyone, especially someone who claimed to care for her, could accuse her of such a thing was beyond comprehension. He could see the fear etched on Melissa's face, the deep-seated fear that came from being constantly belittled and disbelieved. A seed of suspicion took root in his mind. Was this just about space, or was there something more sinister at play? Just then, a sharp rap on the kitchen door startled them both. Melissa jumped, her eyes widening in alarm.
It's okay, sweetheart. Stay here.
Peter said soothingly. Rising to his feet, he cautiously approached the door, peering through the small window pane. A woman stood on the other side, a warm smile on her face and a covered dish in her hands. Peter recognized her instantly. It was Karen, their new next-door neighbor. He had only met her briefly a few times, but he remembered her kind eyes and gentle demeanor. What was she doing here? And, more importantly, what did she know? Peter cautiously opened the kitchen door, his hand still resting on the knob.
Karen, what brings you here?
Karen smiled, her eyes flickering nervously between Peter and Melissa.
Hi, Peter. I hope you don't mind, but I brought Melissa some lunch. I made extra chicken pot pie.
Peter hesitated for a moment, his gaze shifting from Karen's kind face to Melissa's anxious expression. He could sense that Karen knew more than she was letting on, that she had probably suspected something was wrong for a while.
Come in, Karen. It's good to see you.
Karen stepped into the kitchen, her eyes scanning the room quickly. She noticed the mattress on the floor, the single blanket, the meager belongings piled in the corner. Her heart ached for Melissa, for the fear and loneliness she saw reflected in the young girl's eyes.
Melissa, honey, why don't you go wash your hands? Lunch is ready.
As Melissa reluctantly moved towards the sink, Karen turned to Peter, her expression turning serious.
Peter, I need to talk to you about Melissa. I've been worried about her for some time now.
Peter nodded grimly, his suspicions confirmed. He had a feeling he was about to hear some difficult truths he should have uncovered a long time ago. Peter's voice was firm, resolute. He would not allow his daughter to suffer any longer. He would protect her, no matter the cost. He looked down at Melissa, who was watching him with wide, hopeful eyes.
Melissa, honey, go pack a bag. You're coming home with me.
Melissa's face lit up with a radiant smile, the first genuine smile Peter had seen from her in what felt like forever. As she rushed off to her room, Peter turned back to Karen, his eyes filled with newfound determination.
Linda and her sons will answer for what they've done. I promise you, justice will be served.
Sunday afternoon arrived, casting long shadows across the lawn. Peter watched from the living room window, his jaw clenched tight. He had spent the last 2 days showering Melissa with love and reassurance, erasing the traces of fear and neglect from her eyes. But the anger still simmered within him, a potent fuel waiting for its release. A car pulled into the driveway, and Linda emerged, her face flushed with laughter as she unloaded bags from the trunk. Jay and Kyle tumbled out after her, their faces sticky with ice cream and oblivious to the storm brewing inside the house. Peter took a deep breath, steeling himself for the confrontation to come. He met them at the door, his expression as cold and hard as granite.
Peter, what a surprise. You're home early.
Save it, Linda. I know everything. Karen told me what you did to Melissa.
Linda's smile faltered as she took in his demeanor, the bags slipping from her grasp and spilling their contents onto the porch.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Linda's face paled, her carefully constructed facade crumbling before his eyes.
Don't insult my intelligence. You and your sons are moving into the garage. Consider it a taste of the isolation and neglect you inflicted on my daughter.
Linda's eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed in defiance.
You can't do this. This is my house too.
Not anymore. I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm seeking full custody of Melissa. And if you try to fight me on this, if you breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll make sure you never see either of us again.
He leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper. Linda, realizing she had been outmaneuvered, could only sputter in rage as her sons, their faces now pale with apprehension, began hauling the mattresses towards the garage. The sight of them struggling with their belongings filled Peter with a grim satisfaction. Justice, for now, was served. As the last of their belongings disappeared into the garage, Peter closed the door firmly, severing the final tie to Linda and her cruelty. He turned back to the house, to where Melissa waited, her eyes bright with hope and the promise of a brighter future.
Karen was right. A new beginning awaited us, a future filled with love, laughter, and the unwavering bond between a father and his daughter.
The silence that descended upon the house after Linda and her sons left was deafening. It was the silence of absence.
Softly, "It's just us now, Melissa."
He looked down at Melissa, her small hand engulfed in his. Her eyes now shone with a newfound sense of security. He squeezed her hand gently, a silent promise to be the father she deserved. The house felt different now, lighter somehow. The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Peter created a safe and loving home for Melissa.
"Let's paint your room a cheerful yellow, Melissa."
He painted her room a cheerful yellow, hung her artwork on the walls, and bought her a fluffy new rug. He made sure she knew she was loved and safe. Karen, their neighbor, became an invaluable support. She brought over home-cooked meals, played board games with Melissa, and listened as Peter shared his hopes for the future. As the weeks turned into months, a sense of normalcy returned to their lives. Melissa blossomed under her father's love and attention. Her laughter filled the house once more. She made new friends at school and joined the local Girl Scout troop. Peter watched his daughter's transformation with love and gratitude. And with that, their future was filled with hope. One warm spring evening, as the sun cast long shadows across the lawn, Peter sat on the porch swing with Karen. Melissa's laughter echoed through the open windows as she played checkers with her new friend.
Smiling. "Life has thrown me a curveball, but I've caught it."
Peter smiled, content. He had found something precious and unexpected.
"Thank you, Karen, for everything."
He looked at Karen, her profile in the golden light. He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining.
You don't have to thank me, Peter. We're a team.
As they sat there, hand in hand, watching Melissa, they knew the future held promise, a future they would face together as a family.